the MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
Take it right back to the pattern, hit that shit like whack-a-mole. Then I make it disappear, it's a magic show. Gotta get back to that dough. When I flex, I do the most. So my demons pack and pose. Run up, we gon' snatch your soul. Every day I'm fresh as fuck, like I stepped out of fashion show. All these bitches wanna take a picture with me, say she for my soul.
The teller checking in once again. Of course, it's another fight week. They just keep putting these events out one after another, which it's a great thing for us because it just gives us more opportunities to make money and profit. So it's a great thing. This event's going to be taking place in Uruguay this upcoming Saturday. So I'm excited for that. I like to see the UFC keep expanding to new countries, and keep giving opportunities to new prospects from all around the world. It's a great thing for the sport. Some of these guys, you might not recognize the name as of now, but you're going to see throughout the years, there's going to be a lot of guys coming from these parts of the world, South America, when they do events like this in Europe, some of the smaller countries in Europe. It's a great thing for the sport, like I said, and I really enjoy watching events like this. So, and of course, there's opportunities to make money. There always is, especially on cards like this. If you do the right amount of homework, you get that tape study done, there's definitely spots to make some money. So, we'll be breaking down UFC on ESPN Plus 14, a.k.a. UFC Fight Night 156. Valentina Shevchenko taking on Liz Carmouche. Believe it or not, this is the second time they're fighting. And I guess for those of you that don't realize, Liz Carmouche actually finished Valentina Shevchenko. I believe that was Shevchenko's first defeat that she ever tasted. It's kind of crazy to even picture Liz Carmouche ever beating Valentina at any time in this world. So you guys know what's going to happen in this fight, so it's going to be a little different, but it kind of puts a little bit of an interesting, little bit of taste on the fight. So, and there's a couple other interesting fights in the card. We got Volkan Ozdemir taking on Alir Latifi, Vincent Luque taking on Mike Perry, and a couple other young prospects. We'll get into that a little bit later. But before we even do that, we got to take a look back at last week because I really gotta go off on this one. For those of you guys that keep up with the teller 100%, you guys already know what it is. One of my main plays was Darko Stosic. I got screwed. He won that fight hands down. I mean, you saw the scorecards. It would have been 29-28. Would have been a unanimous decision all the way around. And, he had 2 points deducted for striking to the groin. A couple of them were inside leg kicks. I believe maybe even a knee or something like that. But either way, it was complete horseshit. The fucking referee that was reffing that fight is a fucking asshole. He's that, that little fucking midget with the fucking jacked up arms. Kind of looks like a shrunken down fucking, what's his name? That one old fat comedian that passed away. I forgot his name. Not John Candy, the other guy. Comment below if you guys remember who I'm talking about. But he looks like him from Saturday Night Live. And he fucked us. As soon as the first groin shot was hit, you could tell right away, the ref was like a fucking SS fucking Nazi soldier, right away giving him a stern warning. The second time, boom, right away taking a point. It's fucking third time, 2 points. I mean, it was ridiculous. Even when he took the 1 point away, it was one thing. We would have had the draw. We would have got our money back. You're going to take away another point. It was ridiculous. And then you see some of these fight cards like last night, Dana White's Contender Series. Herb Dean's in there. Fucking fighters are getting hit in the groin. Herb Dean doesn't even give a shit. He looks at them. Continue fighting. I mean, he'll only stop the fight if the fighter even really, looks at him and pleads with him to stop the fight. If then, maybe he'll stop the fight. So, if Herb Dean was refereeing that fight, guaranteed Stosic would have won that fight. So it's funny, sometimes the minor details go a long way. But the bottom line is I can't sit here, I can't predict things like that. I'm the MMA fortune teller, but I can't predict 2 points being deducted in a fight, but I will be able to predict the better fighter. And that was, at good odds, good value. It was almost a pick 'em. I focused in on that fight, and as far as I'm concerned, that was another win for the teller. Anyways, not too long after that, Jimbo Miller, one of my other plays of the night, came through solid. I thought the line was off on that fight. I knew there was great value in Jim Miller against Clay Guida. I really just didn't see Clay Guida winning that fight at all. Jim Miller, this guy, he's really back up to par, man. This guy hasn't missed a beat as of recently. He's been finishing guys. I saw him in his fight previous to this one live. I was there at the event, looked really good, finishing young fighters, young, tall, fucking strong fighters, finishing guys like that. Clay Guida stood no chance. You saw what BJ Penn did to Clay Guida in Clay's previous fight. Clay was losing the beginning of that fight, finally came around, and BJ Penn's an absolute wash. So Other than that, we got to get to the main event. How about Colby Covington? Love him or hate him, the guy's an absolute beast. The guy, he brings pressure like no one else. He pushes a pace like no one else I've ever seen in the octagon. For those of you guys that think Usman's going to go in there and do what he does normally, I really just don't see that happening. So, and if you're watching that line right now, Colby's right now, the pre-line is like 2-to-1 dog for Colby's. It's like a 2-to-1 dog, almost a plus 200. So there's definitely some value there because, like I said, love him or hate him, when it comes to making money, don't discriminate on the fighters because there's some true value there. So keep an eye on that. And, if you want to get the tellers and take whether you like it or not, I think Colby's going to be the future welterweight champion. Mark my words, you heard it here first. He will be the next champ. I'm telling you guys. His striking is just a lot more active than Usman. Doesn't necessarily have the power, but he doesn't need the power. He has like that Nick Diaz type of striking where he's just going to out-volume you. He's going to keep shaking your brain, rattling you. He's going to go in for takedowns, keep you working, just make you absolutely exhausted, and he's going to dominate you. So, and he's going to dominate wrestlers too, I'm telling you guys. You put him in there with some of these guys that are just pure strikers, it's going to get very nasty. And I don't know how you guys feel about him, but I think the dude is somewhat entertaining. He's a little corny at times, but he brings that drama, that kind of like how McGregor used to bring to his fights, and I like it. Even if he's, he could play the whole heel role, he could be the villain or whatnot, but it makes the fights exciting. I'm looking forward to him versus Usman more than any other fight I can think of. Maybe the only other fight I'm looking forward to as much might be fucking Jorge Masvidal versus Leon Edwards because there's a lot of drama with that fight too, Jorge handed him the 3-piece and the fucking soda in the back. I want to see them duke it out now in the cage. So, I like drama like that. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Comment below. Let me know what you guys think about it all. I'm sure there's a lot of Colby haters, but I think that the media is trying to downplay how many people actually support Colby because, he has the whole, the Trump thing and the military. There's going to be a lot of people that are with that stuff. So, I'll try to stay neutral. I don't like to say whether I'm against all that shit or with all that shit, but, don't get it twisted because there's a lot of people that are going to slowly come out the woodwork and they're going to start supporting this guy, Colby. You're going to see it. So, don't let ESPN and all that try to keep manipulating you like, oh, Colby, no one likes him. Yeah, a lot of people fucking hate his guts, but he has people caring either way, and you're going to see he has a lot of people that are supporting him too, so... the guy, I think he's playing his cards right. I think he's due for a big payday. So smart move by Colby, Other than that, I think it's about time we're going to start moving forward to this upcoming event this Saturday taking place in Uruguay. We got a hell of a main event. Like I said, the line is ridiculous, but you know what? Anytime that Valentina Shevchenko is stepping in the cage right now, I want to see it because whether it's a close, entertaining fight like her fights with Nunez and stuff like that, or if it's like her last fight where she's just absolutely putting bitches to sleep, just nasty head kicks, it's going to be entertaining. And I have a feeling that this fight is going to be similar to her last fight. I think we're going to see something epic in here, a nasty finish. She's going to be motivated after losing to this girl before. And Liz Carmouche, as of recently, she's just been looking like a lay and pray type of fighter, so nothing impressive at all. And, you saw her in her last fight. We're going to get into all that later. Let's keep that on hold. Let's start off with the first fight of the night. And it's a good one. It's a damn good one. Combined, they're coming off of 5 losses in a row, but I don't give a shit about any of that. We got Polyana Viana taking on Veronica Macedo. Woo! I think this one's going to come down to the fact, do you guys like nice light green eyes with a little bit more fair skin, or do you like a little bit more of the tan skin with the dark eyes? Pick your poison. But I'm just messing. So let's break down this fight as good as we can. Obviously these girls, in my opinion, the 2 most attractive girls to ever step into a mixed martial arts cage versing each other. Both these girls could be models, in my opinion. Very, very sexy bitches over here. So, here's the thing. Polyana Viana, she initially was about a -170 favorite. I thought that line was off immediately. As soon as this fight was announced, I thought this should have been a pick'em fight. So, I'll cut to the chase. I think this fight is as 50-50 as it gets. I think the line should be -115 to -115. So if you're getting either one of these girls at dog odds, I think you did good. I think you got good value on that because this fight can go any way. Polyana Viana, she's going to be a little taller in there, has a little bit more of a reach advantage. And she's only coming off 2 losses compared to Veronica's 3 losses. But here's the thing. Veronica's 3 losses, the last one came by way of submission to Jillian Robertson, who's an absolute savage. No point intended. No pun intended. The girl, her nickname is the Savage. But before that, she lost to Andrea Lee. Andrea Lee is a very good fighter, working her way up through the ranks. And then before that, she lost to Ashley Evans Smith. She got outpowered, and just, Ashley Evans Smith is a big chick in there. So, those 3 losses, it's okay, you know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously you want to beat girls, some of those types of girls like Ashley Evans Smith and whatnot, but okay, that doesn't necessarily mean when she gets locked in there with Polyana Viana that she's going to be out of her element, because Polyana Viana is probably going to lose to all 3 of those girls as well. I give the slight advantage to Polyana in the jiu-jitsu game as far as just pulling off subs, snatching up a sub. She's good. She gets all different types of subs. She can get arm triangles, triangle chokes, guillotine. She's good. She's very well versed with the submission game. She's not the most skilled fighter, to be honest with you. Like I said, coming off 2 losses in her own right in Polyana. She lost to Hannah Cyphers by way of split decision. And then she lost to J.J. Aldrich, too. Aldrich has good hands, good boxer. So it was what it was with that. Before that, Polyana was 9-1. Like I said, all kinds of subbing bitches, but not on the level, though. The people she was defeating was not on the level. And if I'm going to give an edge to Veronica on this fight, I'm going to give Veronica the edge that she's going to be the more aggressive fighter. She's a tough chick. She did seem to fade a little bit in the later rounds in some of her fights. I noticed that. So cardio could be a little bit of an issue too. But, I'm not going to go into too much more detail on this fight. I really feel like this fight is just a 50-50. So, we're going to be splitting hairs over here between these 2 girls. I think this is the type of fight you need to sit back and just really relax and just enjoy watching these chicks, scrap it out, if you know what I mean. So, I don't know. Who am I going to pick? I'll pick Polyana Viana. At this point, she's the underdog too, but it can go either way. It can definitely go either way, and I would not have any type of money on either of these girls. So, yeah, like I said, enjoy watching this fight. Up next, we got Gilbert Dorino Burns taking on Alexey Wolverine Kunchenko. This guy, Alexey Kunchenko, this guy right here, this guy's a real Russian. He ain't one of those Dagestani Russians. Not taking anything away from the Dagestanis, because those guys are as tough as it gets. But I'm just saying, this guy, Alexey, he's a real OG Russian. He's from the Fedor Emelianenko type of breed. And 20-0, 35 years old. This guy is definitely a solid veteran, very experienced. And, hasn't lost a damn fight. So, and, even since he's joined the UFC, just, handling business, not really beating the biggest of names, beating guys that have names, but just that are not really, their game isn't on par these days. You got guys that are has-beens like Thiago Alves, Yushin Okami. These guys really are not on the level. I think Gilbert Burns would whoop up both those guys. So you got to take that into consideration. But Kunchenko's been putting in work at, Tiger Muay Thai. So, striking's coming around. His style is very patient. He uses his footwork. He likes to circle around the outside of the cage. He'll stuff your takedowns. Very, very good takedown defense, which can definitely come in handy in this fight, because Gilbert Burns is going to want to get this to the mat if he wants to use his jiu-jitsu. But not that Gilbert Burns has to use his jiu-jitsu, because his striking has been looking very, very well as of recently. He's putting in work down over here in South Florida. Hard Knocks 365 with Henry Hooft. Henry Hooft is one of the best striking coaches out, period. So, Gilbert Burns is a threat. He's moving up in weight, too, to 170. He's going to be full of gas. His tank's going to be full. And he's a dangerous fighter. You saw him as of recently with the striking. Like I said, just putting in work, fucking very aggressive. I saw his last fight live against Mike Davis, a decent prospect that had his first UFC fight, and Gilbert Burns just completely outclassed him, outgrappled him, everything. Before that, he beat guys like OAM and Gleason Tebow. Solid fighters, really solid fighters. OAM not so much, but Gleason Tebow is. OAM, you guys know the deal with him. Faded him in his last fight, but just the way that Gilbert Burns went out there and just made work of him was what was impressive about that fight. I'm not that high in OAM, but the way that he did it, that I was high on. I mean, he just outclassed OAM. So, Gilbert Burns is dangerous. Okay, here's what I'm going to say about this fight. I feel that this fight is not necessarily who are you picking to win this fight. It's going to be a close fight. What kind of value are you getting as far as the odds go? I give Alexey the very, very slight edge for the sheer fact he's the more natural welterweight in there. He's going to be a little bit more stout. He's a real welterweight. Hasn't lost a fight yet. Seems very composed. He's composed. I've seen Gilbert Burns get laid out before, by Dan Hooker. I've seen him get fucking dropped. So, you always have that aspect of the game too. His chin could be questionable. But if you're able to get Gilbert Burns at plus 135, plus 140, plus 130, I know a lot of money's came in on him recently, so it's not even looking like that right now. So, but if you were able to get that or able to get that later, I think there's value there. Other than that, though, if money keeps coming in on Gilbert, then there's possible value on Alexey, too. If you're able to get Alexey at like minus 140, 130, more like that, there's some value there, too. So I think this fight really comes down to what kind of line you can get. But this should be an exciting fight. And I'm a little bit surprised that this fight is on so early in the card. I could have seen this fight being later on in the card. So, yeah, on to the next. One of these guys, his name is going to ring a bell to some of you guys out there. And he's only fought in the UFC once, but for those of you guys that had money on him, because I felt like there was some value with him in his last fight too, man. But, I feel your guys' pain. Alex da Silva, he's taking on Rodrigo Vargas. Alex da Silva, he came in his last fight, and he was fighting over, I believe it was over in Russia. He was taking on Alexander Yokolov. Yokolov hadn't fought in a while. He had a pretty long layoff. Really hasn't been the most impressive fighter. And, you have this guy, Alex da Silva, coming in. He's very young, but had a bunch of fights under his belt already. Had over 20-something fights. Was looking good. Had power in his hands, finishing guys with strikes. Had a few subs. You think that he would go in there and make work of Alexander, and he showed to make some big rookie mistakes in there. That was a fight that he had in the bag, was winning the exchanges on the feet, and then he did not know how to stand up and just disengage from the grappling match. Alexander Yokolov continuously went in for takedowns, got him against the cage, was able to get on top of him and pull off that guillotine choke. So I know a lot of you guys are going crazy with that play right there, but I think Alex da Silva is going to learn from the fight like that. He's so young, and he has a good amount of fights already. I think this guy, he's going to look good in this fight right here. I think this is a spot for him to learn from his mistake. He's fighting the Mexican here. They got Rodrigo Vargas. This guy, 11-2. Coming off 2 wins. He won his last fight by head kick. So, he's got some striking to go along with his grappling. Some decent grappling. Had a couple ground and pound finishes too. But against guys that are just really not on the level. So, you don't want to look too much into some of these victories. He's fighting on the local Mexican scene and whatnot. And, fighting over there in Tijuana and Combate. It's not on the level. I think this guy, Alex da Silva, has been fighting better guys in Brazil. The Brazilian mixed martial arts scene is definitely on a higher level than the Mexican mixed martial arts scene. And not that always carries over, that every Brazilian's going to whoop every Mexican. But I think in this case, it probably is. I think this guy, Alex da Silva, has some promise. I don't necessarily like where the line is, though. The line's high. And after the mistakes that Alex made in his last fight, I wouldn't have any money on him, so this wouldn't be a fight that I'm betting on. So, yeah, man, I got Alex da Silva to pull it off, though. In the next fight, we got Geraldo da Freitas taking on Chris El Guapo Gutierrez. I don't know who gave him that nickname. I'm looking at a picture of his face right now. Not sure if that's like one of those, I don't know the words, what that word is that you call that, but like something that's kind of like the opposite, like when you call someone tiny, but he's like a giant-ass guy. Maybe that's where he got his nickname, because I don't know why they're calling this guy El Guapo. No homo. But I'm busting balls over here. But all right, Chris Gutierrez, this is a guy 13-3-1. He's won 4 out of his last 5 fights. The one fight that he lost, was against a solid fighter in Hani Barcelos. Hani Barcelos is no joke at all. He's the real deal. So, he got outclassed in that fight. Hayoni definitely exposed some of his grappling, at least when it comes to fighting guys at his level. But then you know what? Chris Gutierrez bounced back with a nice win against Ryan McDonald. I just don't know if that even means that much. Ryan McDonald's just not that much of an impressive fighter. So you go out there, you beat him. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to compete with guys like Geraldo da Freitas. This guy, Geraldo, I edge him to win this fight for the sheer fact He's been in there fighting on the local Brazilian scene, Jungle Fights, Chuto Brazil, fighting guys like Luciana, Benicio, Raphael, Apocalypse, just lower level Brazilian fighters, but these guys are scrappy. These guys, they have good jiu-jitsu games. You watch the fight footage online. These guys, all their jiu-jitsu games are up to par over there in Brazil. That's one thing. So you always got that jiu-jitsu game going for you. The strikings is coming around over there too. And some of these guys are dangerous. So, this guy, I just feel like I've already seen enough from Chris Gutierrez to know what he brings to the table. You got a guy in Geraldo de Freitas. He's only had one UFC fight, but, he won that fight, unanimous decision. It was a very entertaining fight as well against Felipe Colares, a very entertaining fight. And I just think that I edge him for the sheer fact that, he's young, he's hungry, and I think that he has more potential from what I've seen from him on tape. The guy, he has a good jiu-jitsu game, striking is good. He just has to polish it up, and, I think, like I said, he definitely has more potential to be a more of a solid fighter than I've seen from Chris Gutierrez. Chris Gutierrez is just that typical tough, I don't know if he's Mexican or whatnot, but he's a Mexican-American guy, but just very tough. Doesn't have the best athletic capabilities, doesn't have a nice long reach. He's kind of short. He's in there. He's a tough dude. He'll try to grind you out. And, I don't really like to have money in those types of guys. So, I'm taking Geraldo de Freitas to rise to the occasion here and get his second win in the UFC. So moving along to the next fight, it looks like the flyweight division is still kicking. We got young flyweight prospects here. Even though this guy, Raulian Paiva, lost his first fight in the UFC, it was against a solid fighter in Kiakara, France. Very good fighter. Split decision loss, so, he looked pretty good in that outing. Also, he looked good in his Dana White's Contender Series fight that he fought in. The dude's definitely showing some potential. He's very young. He's only 23. He's about to be 24 in about 2-3 months, so, he's developing as a fighter. Tall for the weight class, pretty good reach. And then you got the shorter fighter here in Rogerio Bontorin, 15-1. He's coming in as the slight favorite. As far as I'm concerned, this fight's a pick'em. So, if you're getting either guy, like I talked about it earlier, if you're getting one of these guys at dog odds, there might be some value there. This fight, these guys are both very quick. They've both proven to be very well-rounded fighters. Good jiu-jitsu games, of course. Fighting out of Brazil, how these guys are going to be with their jiu-jitsu games. But they really are very quick on the mat. Striking is coming around on both these guys. So, this fight, man, could really go either way. I tried to see exactly why they were leaning Bontorin. He's coming off a split decision win against Magomed Bibulatov. Bibulatov, if you guys remember him, this is the guy that everyone was so high on, but just really had some bad luck as of recently because, just to touch up on Magomed for a second, because this guy, he loses to John Moraga in a fight he was looking very good in, then got caught with a nasty punch, got put out, and then he lost that split decision loss where he got a little careless against Rogerio. It was an arguable call. I kind of had Magomed winning that fight. It was very close, though. And, that's what happens, though. You want to take your time in there. You want to be patient, leave it into the hands of the judges. That's what's going to happen. So, props to Rogerio for going in there, handling business. But I think that's a big reason why he's coming in as the slight favorite. I think people think, okay, if you could beat a guy like that, then you're the favorite against a guy in Paiva. But I don't really see that to be the case. This guy Paiva has shown some potential. He's going to have the reach advantage, the height advantage in there. He could use that, to his advantage and just maybe sit on the outside and pick apart with his jab. Maybe he could pull off a decision here. Both of these fighters have shown to be in a lot of close contests. So, if they're not finishing a fight, a lot of split decisions and whatnot. So, this is a fight that, I really don't want any action on. I want to see how this fight goes, take some notes for future fights, but really won't be putting any money on these guys right here. All right, look who we got here. Tecia Torres, the tiny tornado, taking on Marina Rodriguez. It's funny, you look at their last 5 fights. You got Rodriguez, she won 4 of them, had a draw on 1. And then you got Tecia Torres losing 3 of her last 5 fights. But, then you take a look at the girls she's losing to. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Jessica Andrade, Weiji Zhang, the girl that's going to be fighting for the belt here. So, no shame in losing to those types of girls. And then before that, she went out there and beat Michelle Waterson. She looked very good in that fight, used her footwork. Tecia Torres is, she's tough in the clinch. She's a very strong girl. You can see her. She's very muscly. She's able to control girls in the clinch against the cage. That's what she did to Waterson a lot in that fight. And, of course, her striking is very good. She was putting in work at Top Team from way, way back. Now she left Top Team. I believe she's training over there on the West Coast with her girlfriend. I think over in Colorado. She is in Colorado. And you know what? Her cardio is going to be excellent over there. And I think this is a solid spot for her to come out and get a W because, like I said, she's losing to these top girls. And now they're putting her in there with a girl that's, has a nice record. She's never lost before, but a girl in Marina Rodriguez that really hasn't beat anybody or hasn't really shown to be that impressive on tape either. So I think that, this is an excellent spot for Tecia to get some momentum back behind her. I just think that she'll be the better striker in there. She's always shown to have good footwork, nice head kicks. She can mix it all up, nice leg kicks. Punches are good. And, like I said, I really wasn't overly impressed with Marina Rodriguez. She beat Jessica Aguilar. Jessica Aguilar is a very overrated fighter, in my opinion. She was a champion over, I believe it was World Series of Fighting years ago. She's up there in age. She's very stiff. And, Marina Rodriguez was able to go in there and, be a little bit more athletic and, win on the scorecards. But with nothing that was overly impressive. I don't think she's going to step in there and do the same thing to Tecia that she did to Aguilar. I feel that Tecia is a better fighter than Aguilar. I think that she still has a little bit gas left in the tank. She's a very well-rounded chick that's been fighting for years, and she's only 29 years old. She is about to be 30, but she's been training for a long time, and she's a very skilled fighter. So, I'm not going to say that I necessarily see something here, or I'm not going to steer you guys the wrong way. I'm not trying to lead any of you guys into betting a certain way, but I really feel that this is Tecia's spot to come in here and make a statement. And if she doesn't, that's not cool for her, man. That's 4 losses in a row. And then, she's going to really have to evaluate what she's going to want to do with her life because I'm not really sure how long the UFC is going to keep her around. Maybe she'll be able to get another fight, but then you're talking about 5 losses in a row. If you lose that, I mean, she's really going to be on her way out. And she's going to be significantly shorter in this fight, but that's nothing new to her. She's only 5'1". Her opponent Rodriguez is 5'6", but that's nothing new to Tecia Torres. Tecia Torres is been the shorter fighter in almost all of her fights, so she's used to that. She has to use the footwork, throw the nasty leg kicks, chop away at Marina's legs, stuff the takedowns, and I would like to see her outpoint Marina on the feet. That would be a nice way for her to get a W right here. This next fight, guys, don't blink. This fight's going to be exciting. I did a lot of fight tape on this. Cyril Gane. This guy is a nasty Muay Thai striker. I mean, he's a specialist. This guy is the real deal on the feet. Taking on Raphael Pessoa. This guy Pessoa, 9-0, but he's coming in as a pretty big underdog. At least a moderate underdog. I mean, plus 325. I mean, here's the thing. 9-0. He's fighting out of Rio de Janeiro. He has a fucking Gracie tattoo on him. You would assume that this guy, he has to have some jiu-jitsu, and some ground game to go along with his fighting skills. And I'm sure he does. But if you take a look at his record, there's basically no subs. I don't even believe he's ever even had a submission victory before. So, that was kind of... that's not the most appealing thing to see when you're taking on a fighter and Cyril Gane that's a complete striker. Because if you want to pull up the upset, you got to assume that this guy has to get the fight to the ground. There's no way that Raphael is going to sit there and exchange with him on the feet. I looked at the highlight reels of this guy, Cyril Gane. I've watched some of his full fights. The guy is nasty on the feet. Fucking knees flying up the middle, just connecting on the chin, dropping guys, uppercuts. The jab is beautiful. Just throws a beautiful jab, very accurate, cracks the nose with his jabs. The guy is very fit, coming in at 244 pounds. You know, he's not really pushing the limit for the heavyweight division. He's 6'5", 83-inch reach. You know, he's an athletic guy. You know, good footwork. He's not one of those mountainous heavyweight guys that's coming in here. This guy, you know what type of style this guy's bringing, and it's a dangerous style. He's definitely gonna have to have his grappling game up to par though, because if one of these guys get a hold of him and they exploit his ground game, it's gonna be a nasty experience for him. And, I've been watching this guy, Raphael, Pessoa. I haven't really seen anything that stood out to me too much that's shown that he would be able to get this fight to the ground. And he's a big boy, too, man. 263 pounds, 6'3", 30 years old. This guy's in the prime of his life. If this guy's game planning hard for the grappling aspect of the match, training his wrestling, then, he might put Cyril in some danger. Even if he has to pull guard or whatever, try to reverse this, pull guard and sweep him, get on top or do something. But he's 9-0, and if you look at the guys that he's beat out of those 9 wins, I'm not impressed with those guys. I looked into those guys, looked into their records, and I'm not impressed whatsoever. You got to assume that this guy, Cyril Gane, is going to come out here and just wreak havoc. You really do. When you watch both these guys, you watch the tape on them, this guy, Cyril, there's a reason why he's ranked, just being 3-0, and as a professional in mixed martial arts, the guy is immediately ranked towards the top of the heavyweight. I don't want to say the heavyweight division in the UFC, but I'm talking about just the heavyweight weight class in all of the world. This guy is already, he's up there, and you don't see that in other divisions. You ain't going to see a guy that just won 3 fights and is already ranked one of the top guys in his weight division. He's ranked the number 3 heavyweight out of Canada, and he's only 3-0. Canada has some, they have some fighters out there. So, and like I said, his 3 fights just made fucking quick work of all of them. 2 first-round finishes, 1 second-round finish, 2 finishes on the feet. One of them, he fucking dropped the guy, took him down, uppercutted him, and then he fucking pounded him out on the ground. So, this dude, he shows some promise, and I really hope this guy pulls it off, because I think if he lives up to his full potential, we can see some very entertaining fights with this guy. Maybe he gets polished up and you throw him in there with the Francis Ngannou or something like that. Nasty reach, like I said, 83-inch reach. He likes to go by the name Bon Gammon. So, yeah, keep an eye out. And if you're looking to bet this, I don't know if I would take it straight up. I don't know if I would take it straight up. Let's see him prove himself more, just in case if that ground game is not up to par. But if you're looking to bet it, maybe you want to bet Cyril Gane to finish this fight within the distance, because I could see that happening. This dude has nasty finishing power and very polished up striking. So yeah, man, I'm gonna take Cyril Gane to win inside the distance. Not that that is one of my official plays. I don't want to steer any of you guys wrong, but just for a fun pick, I'm telling you guys, Cyril to win inside the distance. Up next, we got Bobby, the Wolfman, Moffett, taking on Enrique Barzola, El Forate, the Peruvian fighter. You guys know the deal with Enrique. The guy pushes a very, very high pace, very active fighter, likes to fight in a lot of close fights. For some reason, his fights always end up being very close, split decision fights. And he's a very active guy. He likes to move around. He's in and out. He could scramble. He could wrestle very, very good for a Peruvian fighter. You wouldn't assume a Peruvian fighter would have the wrestling that he does, but don't get it twisted, because he has solid grappling. He has good cardio. Didn't look that good in his last outing though, man. Kevin Aguilar went to work on him in that fight, and that was a fight that a lot of people had close. But Aguilar looked good in that fight. So, and then then after that, Aguilar didn't look so good in his next fight. So it was a little tricky in there. And then you got Bobby Moffett. This guy's 14-4. He should be on a 5-fight win streak. I believe his last fight against Bryce Mitchell, Bryce Mitchell's a very solid up-and-comer. That was a fight that was very close. I thought Moffett pulled that off. But you know how it is with the judges. Sometimes, they're close fights too, but sometimes the judges, who knows what they're looking at. But Bobby Moffett, this guy, he was on Dana White's Looking for a Fight show, put in work on there, got recognized. Since then, he's been doing his thing, so... he was even on Dana White's Contender Series, pulled off the Darce choke. And he actually won 3 fights in a row by Darce before he lost his last one. So, the guy's a dangerous fighter. And I like this guy. And I believe he's an underdog right now. Check the odds on this real quick. But I got Moffett winning this fight. I like his wrestling. I like his striking. He's a well-rounded dude. He's tough. He brings it. He's going to fight for your money. He ain't going to sit back on his ass against the cage. He's going to step forward. And I like that. So, he's coming in right now around plus 130, plus 140. I think there's value there for sure. But bottom line is I'm taking Bobby Moffett to win this fight. One thing you have to definitely take into consideration, there might, the South American crowd's going to be over there. There might be some Peruvians in attendance or whatnot. Either way, they're going to be rooting on their South American brother over there. So I'm sure the crowd will definitely be behind Barzola. So hopefully Moffett can make it a definitive win, because if not, and Barzola is known to keep those fights close, Barzola will squeak out that decision. I'm telling you guys right now. So, this might not be the type of fight you want to bet on like that. Be careful. Be careful. But I'm not touching Barzola around minus 160, 170. I'm not touching something like that. I'll tell you guys right now. And I'm going to pick Bobby Moffett to win this fight, hands down, regardless. Not saying it's a play of mine, but picking Bobby to win this fight. Up next, this guy, man, we got this exciting fighter coming in, man. Rodolfo Viera. They call him the Black Belt Hunter. And this guy's got a lot of hype behind him, and I think it's for good reasons. This guy has been tearing it up on the jiu-jitsu scene. He's a nasty jiu-jitsu practitioner. And he's taken on Oskar Piechota, the Polish fighter, who was looking very well up until his last fight. He was undefeated going into that fight against Gerald Meerschaert, and Gerald Meerschaert really stepped up. Finished him with the rear naked choke. But, that's starting to become a habit from Gerald. If you guys have been watching Gerald's fight again last weekend, fucking subbing guys out, man. Just his jiu-jitsu game is nasty, and he's just a solid dude. He's crafty in there. He knows, he just has great fighter IQ. So, props to Meerschaert, just throwing that out there. But before that, Oskar was looking very well, looking very, very good in the UFC. He whooped up Jonathan Wilson, in his first UFC fight. And then after that, whooped up Tim Williams. He looked very good. Made quick work of Tim Williams too. Just tagged him up with the hands, finished him. And then he had the setback against Meerschaert. And I think it's funny that they give him a fight like this against Viera. I don't know if it's supposed to be a setup fight for Viera or whatnot, because coming off that nasty submission loss, and then you throw him in there with a really nasty submission practitioner. I think it's just a funny matchup and an interesting matchup. So, Oscar's going to have to keep this fight on the feet. That's for damn sure. I really think that's going to play a big factor in this fight. Can he keep it on the feet, outstrike Viera, maybe exploit Viera's striking in its own right? But I'm definitely going to go with Viera. I just think that he's one of those blue chip type of fighters that he's a specialist, and, he's in very good shape, 29 years old, hitting the prime of his life. I just feel like this guy's going to be strong enough to get this fight to the floor at one time or another. And I think he can pull off a submission. I think he's going to pull off one of those Damian Maia type of submissions where he just outclasses the other guy, and he's going to show to be on another level in there when it comes to the jiu-jitsu game. And he'll be one step ahead of Piechota anywhere this fight goes on the mat, no matter what position they're in. If he's in guard, on top, transitioning, whatever, he'll reverse him. I really think it could be nasty. But if Piechota, if he's able to stuff those takedowns, maybe he could pull something off on the feet. We'll have to see. This Brazilian black belt hunter, he's very green too. He doesn't have a lot of fights, so we'll see if Oskar can be a little bit more crafty in there and use his striking to pull off a victory. Like I said though, I think this guy Rodolfo is a specialist, and I could just see him going in there and just doing work in there. So, all right, we got some more big boys throwing down. A lot of guys up in the bigger weight classes. We got some heavyweight guys fighting, some light heavyweight fighters fighting. I'm excited for this fight right here. Volkan Ozdemir taking on Ilir Latifi. This was a fight that was supposed to happen a few weeks back and got canceled. I believe it was because of Latifi for whatever reasons. So I don't know if he wanted that smoke with Volkan, because Volkan has been looking fucking good. I believe he's coming off a loss, but it wasn't even a loss. He got robbed against Dominic Reyes. And the fight before that, he lost to Anthony Smith. That was a fight that he was dominating. Made a couple mistakes. Went down to the ground, to the mat, and he got rear naked choked. A guy like Volkan is learning from his mistakes, and his grappling game is getting better every day. Training down here in South Florida, a lot of good jiu-jitsu practitioners over here. And like I said though, so he's on a 3-fight losing skid, but look at the guys that he's losing to. Daniel Cormier, no shame in that. Okay, he got outclassed, out-wrestled, taken down, ground and pounded. Then the Anthony Smith fight, like I said, he's winning that fight, and then made one mistake that, he's going to learn from that, I'm telling you guys. And then the Dominic Reyes fight, split decision loss. He didn't lose that fight. That's complete bullshit. The fight was definitely one of the worst robberies I've seen in a while. And I know it lit a fire under his ass, and he's going to come in here and he's going to handle this fight right here, because Like I said, coming off a loss that he didn't even lose, that's got to be so frustrating. The 2 losses before that, one in which he was controlling the fight up into making a mistake. I just feel like he's going to come in here and handle work. You got Ilir Latifi. He's definitely got some things going on outside the octagon. Pulled out of his last fight. I've seen a couple of interviews with him, and he just seems a little bit off. Coming off a loss to Corey Anderson, a guy that, a lot of you guys are high in this guy, Corey Anderson. I'm not at all. I think he's highly overrated, and I expected Ilir to go out there and handle work, and he didn't. So he really didn't at all. He got completely controlled by Corey, and I think that's a fight that he should have went out there and he should have finished Corey Anderson. He should have fucking thrown bombs. Corey Anderson's a guy that's been finished by just trash fighters, man, like Gene Vellante and stuff. You know what I mean? So, he actually got finished by Gene too. So, I thought that Ilir, he's this fucking powerhouse tank type of fighter. He should have went out there and handled work, and he didn't in that fight. And then, I don't know, now you're in there against a guy in Volkan who's really been making strides in his game. He's just looked so strong in the clinch. You guys already know the deal with his striking. His striking is very solid. It's at the top of the division. And I don't know. I mean, Alir's probably going to try to maybe game plan for some takedowns, shoot in like a fucking bowling ball, try to get on Volkan's legs. I just don't see that being the case over here. I think that Volkan's going to stuff the takedowns. He looked very good against Dominic when it came to stuffing the takedowns, and I think he's going to grow off that. And he'll keep this fight standing, and I think he'll piece apart Ilir. And I wouldn't even be surprised if he got a finish. You know what I mean? Alir's a guy he got finished by Ryan Bader. That was a disgusting knee. But, other than that, Ilir does have a solid chin. So, I mean, it's not going to be a walk in the ballpark as far as finishing Ilir Latifi. But I could definitely see him gassing out Ilir Latifi in the second, third rounds and really just picking him apart, maybe get a TKO or something like that. Either way, the play is Volkan Ozdemir. I'll be looking forward to watching this fight. Up next, I think this fight's really going to tear the roof off the building. You got the local fighter in Luis Eduardo Garagari taking on Humberto Bendene, fighting out of Peru. The line's very close on this fight, and I kind of understand why. This guy Humberto has shown some signs in the past to be a very solid fighter, even though he's coming off 2 losses, one of them being pretty nasty as well. But this guy he's fighting, he's 12-0. The thing with Humberto, he goes out there in his last fight. Austin Arnett just completely controls him, wins a unanimous decision. Austin Arnett, crafty dude, but not really the top of the line type of fighter. Gabriel Benitez was the nasty finish I was talking about. He slammed him, followed up with some punches. That was a nasty finish in the first round, made quick work of him. But other than that, man, before that, he was looking very good. He had a nasty head kick win himself against Martin Bravo, nasty armbar against Salim Mukahidov. That was King of the Cage fight too, in King of the Cage. And he was looking good, man. He's just, I don't know, man. He had a little bit of a setback with these 2 losses. The dude is quick. He's athletic. He's tall for the weight class, 6'1". The dude, you know what I mean? This guy, he has the tools. Then if you look at this fight on paper, though, you got this guy fighting in his hometown. He's 12-0. The dude is very fit. He looks to be a very promising fighter himself. Coming off, this guy's done nothing but win, man. Just win and win and win. So, he's shown to have all types of skills too, man. This guy can do work on the ground, has power in his hands. I think that you got to lean with Luis Eduardo to win this fight just for the sheer fact it's in his hometown, because I could see this fight playing out closely and the crowd is just going to be going nuts for him in this fight. I really believe that's going to be the case. And, he's a solid fighter as well. He has the tools to just go out there and take Humberto out regardless. Humberto's psyche is going to be a little bit messed up coming off 2 losses like that. It also could light the fire under his ass too, but he's only 24 years old. He's going to continue to grow. I just feel like Luis is more mature at this point in the game, and the hometown advantage is really going to carry a lot of weight. If Humberto is going to win this fight, he really needs to put a stamp on it. He needs to go out there, maybe hit him with a head kick or something like that and shock the world with a nasty finish. I wouldn't want to go in there if I was him and just keep this a close fight and just battle it out and get robbed by the judges. So I'm going to lean Luis Eduardo Garogari to win this fight. Is this the people's main event right here? We get the co-main event, Vincent Luque taking on Mike Perry. Anytime Mike Perry fights, it's going to be an exciting fight. People are going to tune in. He always brings it, win or loss. Yeah, he really does. He brings the fight. He looks to take people's heads off. You got to appreciate that. I think he might be in a little bit over his head in this fight, though. This guy, Vincent Luque, is a fucking assassin. His nickname's the Silent Assassin, but this dude is a fucking assassin. He really is. His striking is just so polished. His jiu-jitsu game is very underrated as well. Mark my words on that. This guy's been putting in a lot of time with his jiu-jitsu for years and doesn't really get to showcase it that much. But it's definitely there. But the striking is just so technical, man. Very, very technical. Very good leg kicks. Keeps the elbows nice and tucked and tight. Throws quick strikes, nice jabs. And then you got a guy like Mike Perry that, he's swinging for the fences, coming very wide. I think that's going to be a bad thing for him because, a guy like Vincent Luque is going to make him pay. You know what I mean? You want to come wide with those shots. If you don't put Luque out, he's going to make you pay for it. Like I said, he's going to throw those shots right down the middle. He's going to fucking crack you in the nose, break your nose, fucking catch you with some nice shots, maybe even hit you on the chin and put you out. Not that Perry is shown to be put out that often. Matter of fact, has never been finished by TKO or KO. So the dude is a tank, but every dog has its day when it comes to stuff like that. You cannot take so many shots to the face. Not to say that's what I see happening, but, don't be shocked because I really feel like Vincent's just going to put it on him. He's just so accurate with his punches. If anything, in his last fight, he didn't look the best against Derek Krantz, which that was an amazing fight, by the way, and an amazing story. The whole story with Derek Krantz, for those of you guys that remember what was going on with him, he stepped in there, made his dream come true, fighting inside the octagon, and was actually winning that fight. But that's how composed a guy like Vincent Luque is. He's starting to lose the fight, man. He just composes himself, comes back, and he pulls off the victory, finishes Krantz inside the first round. And, this guy, Luque, he's on a, 5-fight win streak. His only loss in the last fucking 10 fights was against Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is at the top of the division. And Luque's young, too. He's a young fighter. He's only 27 years old. He's definitely growing every time he gets in there. And, baby, if the only red flag I see was the way that he looked in the beginning of that last fight, he can be a slow starter at times. He was a little bit of a slow starter in his last two fights against Brian Barberena and Derek Krantz, who those fighters they're not really the cream of the crop. So that is the one red flag. If you're looking at dog money on Perry, if Perry's able to just push that pace from the beginning, fucking drop those hooks on him, maybe get inside Vincent Luque's head, bully him up. I just don't see it happening because even if he does start to piece up Vincent will compose himself, and then that technique's going to come into hand, and he'll start piecing apart Perry. Just over the time of even a 3-round fight, man, a 3-round, 5-minute fight, 15 minutes, you guys don't realize how much time that is actually for a fighter, man, when you're fighting. It doesn't seem that long when you're just watching, but it just gives the fighter so much time for the truth to prevail. So, Perry, like I said, he can start tagging Vincent early, bring that pressure. Either way, Luque's technique is going to rise to the top, and he will be victorious in this fight, I believe. Other than that, Perry might go out there, throw a bomb, and connect. We'll have to see. It's going to be an exciting fight. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that fight. All right, we've reached the main event of the evening. We got Valentina Shevchenko taking on Liz Carmouche. I touched on this fight a little bit earlier in the show. And, like I said, believe it or not, Liz Carmouche did beat Valentina Shevchenko early in her career. I still can't believe that. Obviously, Valentina is just a completely different fighter. Really, both these girls are completely different fighters at this stage of the game. And I think Carmouche is kind of taken a step backwards as of recently. Even though she's won 2 fights in a row, she really hasn't. And again, I'm sorry I'm harping on these judges, but she lost her last fight. And if any of you guys remember that fight, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Lucy Putty Lova beat her. Other than that, she should have won one of her last 3 fights. She looked good in the Jennifer Maia fight. She's a solid fighter, Liz Carmouche. She's very strong for the women's, bantamweight. Now she's at, women's flyweight division, now that they have the new division. She's very strong for the weight class. She's very muscular. Sometimes she bullies these girls around. That's how she was able to squeak that decision in her last fight. She was just stronger than Lucy. she's like a guy in there, you know, and no offense, you know what I mean, to say it like that, but she really is almost like a guy compared to some of these girls. But she's not really that technical. She's not that active. And Valentina is just really going to exploit her at this stage in the game. Valentina is on another level. And Valentina's going to go in here, probably have a highlight reel finish. And it probably won't put her, in my mind, above Amanda Nunes, because Amanda Nunes just defeated Cyborg the way that she did, and then just took out Holly Holm. So I mean, she's fighting the higher caliber of fighters. But you know, after Valentina goes in there, has her highlight finish, she's going to be right back up there again. You know, right with Amanda Nunes, just a little bit behind her. So yeah, the pick is Valentina Shevchenko to win by highlight reel finish. The odds, I mean, you can't even touch the odds. Minus 1,100. What are you going to do with it? You're going to parlay it? I mean, give me a break. I mean, if you want to parlay it with a little something and just put a little extra, you know, pennies in your account, I'm not going to hate on guys that do that because, I mean, here's the thing. Shevchenko's not going to lose this fight. Mark my words. It's on tape right here. She will not lose this fight. So that's going to wrap up the card. Not the biggest of names, but like I said, you know, it's a good thing for the South American MMA scene. And some of these guys will grow from this card and eventually, you know, begin to make their own names in the game. And it's good for the sport. Other than that, you know, hopefully we'll see some exciting finishes. And, hey, at least we got fights on this weekend. It beats not having any fights. And there's a great opportunity to make some money. So, you know, comment below who you guys got. I have my one solid play already for sure. Locked it in. And then eyeing a few others, but it really depends on some of these lines. We'll check the line movement. And other than that, what's going on in the MMA scene? Anything else? I mean, the haters are hating, and the winners are winning. You know what I mean? So that's all it's about. It's about making money. And, you know, if you guys aren't making money betting on these fights, like I've seen some of these guys I know I bump into, it's a sad sight, man. Guys that are depositing hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars continuously and just can't grow their account and just got that itch and still want to keep depositing money. It's a sad scene. I hope that's not you guys listening. You know what I mean? I know a lot of you guys are capitalizing, making money with me. You know, use your head, you know. Use your head in this MMA game and, you know, focus in on the right fights to capitalize and make money on. Avoid certain fights that you have no business touching. You guys know what fights you should not be touching. Stay disciplined, and you will profit long term. I'm telling you guys now, you will profit long term. Just be disciplined and pick the right fights. It sounds easier than it is, but you know, for those of you guys that are well versed in the game, or that are being guided in the right direction, there's no reason why you can't do it. So we'll leave you guys on that note. I'm going to sign out here, and I'll be back with a very exciting breakdown for some of these cards coming up, because you guys know what cards are right around the corner, and I'm going to have something special for you guys for that card. I'll make sure I do a nice special breakdown for you guys. So signing out, the Teller.